Papadopoulos is an example of actually somebody doing the wrong thing while the president's campaign did the right thing. All of his emails were voluntarily provided to the special counsel by the campaign, and that is what led to the process and the place that we're in right now, was the campaign fully cooperating and helping with that. What Papadopoulos did was lie, and that's on him, not on the campaign, and we can't speak for that.
Well, it seems President Trump can't shake those Russian rumors. Investigations into whether his campaign colluded with the Kremlin have dogged the U.S. president since he took office. And now we may have the most convincing evidence yet. George Papadopoulos, a former Trump foreign policy advisor, admitted he lied to the FBI when he denied meeting Kremlin-linked officials to secure incriminating information about Hillary Clinton. Add to that the president's former campaign manager, Paul Manafort, and his long-term associate, Rick Gates, who face indictments now for conspiracy and money laundering. But Trump has hit back, calling Papadopoulos nothing but a lying, low-level aide. Well, to help us make sense of all of this, I'm joined now from Washington by Harry Lippmann. He's a former U.S. Deputy Assistant Attorney General. Harry, thanks so much for joining us. For all the attention, the press attention that Manafort and Gates are really getting, it actually is Papadopoulos that could prove most dangerous to the president, correct?
I think that's right. The first wave was all about Manafort and Gates, people that everyone had heard of who were part of the probe. No one had heard of Papadopoulos, but then when in the same moment they realized what he had been what he had pleaded guilty for, people quickly by around Monday afternoon put two and two together and realized this points much more directly at the president, at the campaign, at the overall charges of collusion with Russia in order to advance the Trump candidacy.
And tell us more about that. What really is in his admission?
Sure. It's a brief admission, and as your listeners just heard at the top, the actual crime is lying to the FBI about a detail of timing. That's not the point in terms of the incrimination of the campaign. What's in his admission is the statements that he spoke with both Russian officials and people close with Russia who were interested in speaking to him precisely because they understood that he was, as he was, a named policy consultant for the campaign. So it's true that he tried to make the most of that status, but more importantly for now, others approached him. They told him about the hacked emails several months before they were generally known, the hacked emails of the DNC, and they wanted to play ball with him and give him incriminating evidence about Hillary Clinton specifically so that the campaign could profit from it, the Trump campaign. So it's kind of beside the point for the president to now say, yes, he lied. That was just what got him in the door, what gave Mueller the leverage to make Papadopoulos cooperate and talk with him. But it's the content of what he did while a named consultant for the campaign that really has everyone in Washington talking and has everyone in the Oval Office sweating.
Okay, legally though, and the Trump administration keeps pushing this line, they say he was not a paid staff member, he was a low-level volunteer. Can Trump therefore legally disassociate himself with whatever Papadopoulos' actions were along those lines?
No. And by the same token, by the way, Manafort was also unpaid. It's something that commended themselves to Trump. Trump liked very much having unpaid consultants, and he brought him up and praised him, Papadopoulos, before. But the question is not, again, whether Trump and the Oval Office is somehow directly responsible for the lie. That's not the issue. It's the evidence that Papadopoulos now will provide, has to provide under the plea agreement, and that evidence is about collusion with the campaign. If Russia is out there colluding with anyone, even if it's someone who in fact is not part of the campaign, which is not the case here, that shows, that's of great interest because that's the basic point that people want to examine. What was the relationship between the Russian government and the Trump campaign? But as for the notion that he wasn't part of the campaign, that's risible. He was someone whom Trump had praised as one of his few named foreign policy consultants. Sure, like other people in the campaign, he was looking to make the most of his title, maybe puffing a little. But the point is that Russia wanted to meet with him, tell him about the dirt they had on Hillary Clinton, precisely because of his status.
And another part, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, another part of what seems to be Trump's strategy now is this deflection. It's a year after the election, and he continues to push and bring up an investigation into Clinton's emails in a way just to say, well, whatever she did is worse than what I may have done. So that's where investigators need to put the priority. Do you think, first of all, do you think it's a premeditated strategy here? And do you think it will work because his supporters have bought it before?
So I think it is premeditated in the sense that it is a page out of his playbook. He does it a lot. He did it in the campaign. It's perfectly irrelevant because what Mueller has been engaged to do is look at the activities of the campaign and anything that flow from it. Will it work? It's an interesting question. There have been episode after episode here in D.C. where people said, well, now people will abandon Trump. Now people will understand that Trump isn't honest, etc. And while that has happened at the margins, there still seems to be a kind of core of 30% of the public who say, we don't care, this is old business, the Democrats do it too, Hillary was worse, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that it may well work with a small part, with more than a small part of the electorate. The question is, will it work with everybody in Congress and the sort of broad middle?
Okay, and you trust Robert Mueller to carry out this investigation thoroughly, honestly, fully professionally, correct?
Everybody who's ever been around him does. He's right out of Central Casting. He's, you know, part Henry Fonda, part Jimmy Stewart, part John Wayne. I've worked with him, but he is the real deal more than anybody in the country.
So are Jared Kushner and Donald Trump Jr. probably next, in your opinion?
So I don't know. One of the things that make him such a great professional is he and his whole staff are completely buttoned down, don't say anything. But the reason focus is now turned on Kushner and Trump Jr., as well as Manafort, is they had a very similar episode to the one that put Papadopoulos in the soup. With their meeting that you may have read about in June of 2016 with a Russian lawyer that they thought also was going to be giving dirt on Hillary Clinton. If, in fact, the FBI interviewed them about that, and if, in fact, they were not 100% truthful, they are in trouble. Remember, Papadopoulos' lie here was somewhat at the margins of his overall account, but it was still a lie, and they came after him hard. If Kushner and Trump Jr. have done the same thing, they're in trouble. And recall that President Trump helped concoct a false version of what had happened at that meeting originally to make it seem innocuous.
Harry Lippmann, unfortunately, we are out of time. Thank you so much for joining us from Washington on this edition of The Newsmakers.